Hello everyone, this is Buildershed here. Hope y'all like my new look. Yeah, I've already had these sunglasses, but I was like, she's not to wear them for a little bit. So, sorry about that, peep. So, today I want to do a Linux tutorial, like beginning of a Linux tutorial series. And today I want to start the tutorial series off with more like why you would use Linux, why should you use Linux. Well, more like if you should you would be more like would you. Ah, yes, sir. So why would you learn Linux? I mean, why would you use Linux? What are the best reasons to use Linux? And basically some things people commonly do on Linux. So let's get into it. So Linux is an alternative to Windows and Mac OS. It's a free and open source alternative, which means you can screw around with it as much as you want. That even means changes in code of the entire OS. Make your own variant of Linux. And Linux also has a lot more positives to it than that. Linux, sometimes for gaming, I've mentioned this before, some games like Minecraft can run faster. Like a lot of games that they run with Proton actually run faster, though you also got issues such as anti-cheats complain about Linux. But overall, like, Linux is a really great OS to switch to. If you got, like, it's a good OS to switch to if you're doing work and stuff. Like, there are free and open source alternatives to Photoshop and Microsoft Office, for example. Let me just pop open GIMP and Libreoffice. And LibreOffice, like, these are two free and open source equivalents to Microsoft Office and Photoshop that you can use. They're free as in both free to screw around with, I believe, and free to download. Though you can't donate to these peeps if you want to. So basically, you have your equivalents. So here's the free and open source equivalent to Microsoft Word. Like, just type random crap and then just click close. Don't save. Here's your. That was that. So, first thing, let's go off with the reasons why you would use Linux. First reason I mentioned before, if you're playing games, you would probably use Linux for games to run a bit faster. Linux is not a gaming OS yet, but it's getting closer and closer, and it's getting better at gaming as time goes on. Not to say it will overtake Windows, though. I am saying it could become a competitor against Windows. Though you're not going to be playing VR on Linux anytime soon, though. So if you have a VR headset, if you want to do Linux too, I'd suggest keeping a dual boot going. And it's like dual boot instead of virtual machine. Most people would recommend a virtual machine if you're gaming on Linux to play some games in a Windows virtual machine. The reason why I say no to that is because you have a lot of anti-cheats. It's primarily BattlEye and whatever Valorant uses. Hate Linux users to the complete, to every extent they can. They ban people for using virtual machines. So I'd advise keeping a dual boot system going, like keeping Windows around as so something you can just turn off your computer and log into Windows. But then turn off again and log into Linux if you want to. More of a hassle to some people. There's also some other advantages such as drivers and stuff like Mesa allowing AMD graphics cards to run OpenGL a heck of a lot faster on Linux. So another reason why you probably use Linux is probably just because you like a lot of software that comes with Linux. Better performance, obviously. Maybe you don't like to be in the clutches of Windows often. Or you're just more Don't like people seeing the type of stuff you're like that they see, like wherever you're browsing online. Of course, I'm not being like extremely worried about my privacy when using Google Chrome, obviously, but I use that so I can need to switch to schoolwork and stuff. Currently, I'm in my alternative account, by the way. Just created a tutorial account. Did switch my OBS configs over, though. Continuing on, you'd also probably use it because some of the advantages it gives. I've already mentioned some of these advantages, such as very good, like extreme, like a lot of power when it comes to customization. Like, let me pop up the terminal. I think is actually the wrong terminal to open. Like, let's open the XFCE terminal, and for example, one of the advantages you get are package managers. So here's Pacman and an Arch. So assignment package game, and it's already installed. So let's just type no, like N, but well, if you didn't have it installed, you just type Y and press enter. But of course, for obvious reasons, I'll get into the terminal more next episode. No, like Linux also has stuff like the many distros do come with something like a little store. So let me pop open GNOME software on here. Hold on, yeah. What the heck? Oh my. So you can find software in here. Of course, not showing anything right now for some reason. I don't know why, but you can obviously find software in here and download them easier. So now, what are some big advantages of Linux? Like I said, I mentioned this before, package managers and desktop environments. Speed is another thing I've mentioned before. I think I pretty much mentioned a lot of the positives before. It says workflow could be better on Linux. Though having to be a bit more honest here about something, there are some negatives, like some reasons why you probably shouldn't use Linux. Remember, like if you got VR games, if you got an NVIDIA graphics card, you're probably good enough on Windows yourself. I wouldn't, unless you really wanted to do like some things on Linux, then get a dual boot going. If you play a lot of online games, I'd say probably better off for you to stay on Windows or to switch to console gaming. That's going to infuriate some people. Don't worry. Like, and if you're like, Linux is not necessarily for computer geeks though, but some distros are more oriented towards computer geek. So like, I would probably just like stay away from some of those distros to get more into Linux. Though Arch Linux is definitely blown out of proportion when it comes to that. Like Arch Linux is a rolling release, and its installation is fully command line, but at the same time, it's not that bad as some like Gentoo, which I always jokingly compare to the 9 Circles of Hell, like because that's literally its installation. It's takes forever. It's difficult. Like it's hell, if you know what I mean. So that's more of like the positives and stuff, and reasons why you should use Linux. If you're more of a soft, like if you're being like screwed over by some government or something, of course you would be better off using Linux. Obviously, if you like free and open source software, you'd be better off in Linux probably. And if you like customization, making your desktop look sexy, well, Linux is for you then too. Yeah, literally, there's so many good customization things you could do on here. Made this thing look like old GNOME. I just get rid of that panel, as I don't need it to exist. Yep. Nuke the panel. Good. Like classwork related stuff, Linux is not going to hinder you. Like I said before, production, you're not going to be hindered much by production if you actually want to move to a free and open source alternative that won't be costing you a crap ton of money monthly. So for example, you got KDN Live, which I use my video editor now. Used to send stuff to the iMac and I have right there and edit through HitFilm, but now I'm not as reliant on other OSs as much. Still trying to figure out crypto and stuff. So this is Buildershed here. Hope to see y'all next time. See ya. If you'll like this type of content, make sure to drop a like. If you wanted to see more of this content, make sure to subscribe. If you don't like this content, or specifically this video, drop a dislike. And it'd be heavily appreciated if you were to also drop a comment explaining why you disliked the video and some issues, also known as constructive feedback. I'll see y'all next time. See ya.